Alright guys, such Kremp again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Dashy is effectively the new reincarnation of FormaL on this OpTic team. Their main AR shoots incredibly straight, one of the best shots in COD, but his results do not quite tally up to the great Matthew FormaL Piper as of yet, and maybe Dashy still has a fair bit to learn from FormaL as they played ranked over the last few days together. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. What do you think about this from Kremp, by the way? Bringing back Iron Sight, he says, in 2025. Now, I will say, I miss the days where Iron Sights on ARs were more common. But to be fair, it's been a thing for years now that people don't tend to use them. But the irons can be pretty nice. I mean, I think the last game we ever really saw this be done was, I guess it was Modern Warfare 19 when the, the M4, whatever it was, people often wouldn't use it with an iron sight on it. Kind of similar to what we're seeing here from Kremp, to be fair. But even on the great games, I mean, we're talking Black Ops 2, how many people use the iron sights? There were a couple of ARs where it was viable, but even BO3, for example, like there was the ICR in BO3, which was never used by anybody apart from Octane very occasionally. That had really clean irons, so, you could use that without a red dot, but even in that game, the M8, no one ever really used the M8 without a red dot sight on. So, yeah, I don't know, I don't really mind, but Kremp's absolutely cooking here with the Jackal, with the aims, with whatever. But yeah, maybe iron sights potentially are the way to go if there's any evidence to go by here. Thought this was cool as well from Gwinn. We saw last year was his rookie year, and of course he was the rookie of the year at the end of the season, despite the fact that the Ravens did not make it to the World Championship. This year they're looking very good to do exactly that, and it's relatively frequent in just sports in general. A player may have their rookie year and look good, but then the next year is their breakout year, the year that they really step up to the next level. I've been wondering now for a good couple of years who the next player will be to break into the mix to play on some of the very top teams. If you look at the top teams, obviously Thieves, Ghosty has kind of broken into that ballpark over the last couple of years of being a player capable of being on those rosters. He's the only one to really have done so. Pred's been around a couple of years, of course, now he's out. Huke's been around a number of years as well. Shotzzy, Dashy, these caliber of players. And then you look at FaZe. This is just, in my head, I've been wondering now for some time. If FaZe blow it up, where do they go? What player do they actually sign? Especially if there's no one available from Thieves or from OpTic or whatever. Like, is there even a player out there to go and get? I think Gwinn is one of the players that could and should be in that conversation, right? We've been looking for a player for some time that, let's say, FaZe blew it up or they had problems or whatever. Who will they actually go and get that might be available to try and at least match the talent that they have? It's not really possible because there's not been that much talent coming into the league over the last couple of years. Gwinn might be the guy to look at there. So far, he's number 1 KD in the league, number 1 Slayer rating in the league. Slayer rating is actually 103 is very impressive. Of course, it's very early days, but effectively this means if you played a hardpoint that went down to the wire, if you played a control that went down to the wire 5 rounds, and you played 2 search and destroys that all went to round 11, how many kills are you expected to get in that series as a player based on your performance in those respective modes? And Gwinn is number 1 in that stat, number 1 in the BP rating as well, which we're still tweaking and working on to make it perfectly accurate in terms of the impact of a player on the map. Thought this was cool from Brian as well, looking back on 2024 as competitive COD. The most series wins of the calendar year went to Scrap, Envoy, CleanX and Insight, all with 42. So even though they split up teams, right at the end of the season, they still won the same number of series, because of course both of those teams, Thieves and of course Toronto, went 4-0 before the new year came around. The most tournament wins, only 2 happened for multiple players, however, the OpTic guys, the FaZe guys, so understandably. So highest tournament KD was Cell with his unbelievable performance at the, of course, the World Cup in Riyadh. But interestingly enough, since then, it's not been at all so clear that that is set to continue based on the way that he started this season. Led the most tournaments in KD was Cell, only with 2, however. Regular season MVP was Simp, regular season rookie was Gwinn, and of course the world champions ended up being OpTic Texas. And of course there were loads of storylines this year as well. OpTic winning the world championship, FaZe bringing home multiple championships, but obviously still not in the position they wanted to be, certainly at the world championship. I think it was a big year for Kenny as well, getting to 10 tournament wins, and I believe now surpassing Priestahh as the most wins in the CDL era. Of course with Envoy, with the subliners making their back-to-back Champs Grand Finals appearances, and of course some legends retiring from the scene as well, with Accuracy and Priestahh calling it a day as players. And, you know, Brian Sets also quote tweets it with this: Atlanta FaZe going into the Black Ops 6 season had the most series wins with 40. Then FaZe, though, were 1-3, and Ultra and Thieves are 4-0. So, they've actually been passed. So it was the FaZe boys had 41 series wins in the last calendar year, but Scrap, Envoy, CleanX, and Insight as a team, and also then as individuals on their respective rosters, passed them right at the death with 42. This I thought was cool as well, just to look back on this roster, as I was saying, right, players that were available to potentially move up to top teams. Maybe Sib is in that conversation as well, but he's obviously not started well. And this was just being talked about, right, the best mid-pack team ever assembled, the Seattle Surge roster of a couple of years ago, with Accuracy, Mack, Pred, and Sib. The crazy thing about this team, of course, was that in their second year, at least together, they had Gwinn on the substitute bench, and they never decided to put him in the roster. So they were such a funny team, because their ceiling literally was winning, but their floor was literally last place. Like, they could come 12th or 1st. They were like the ultimate, just you had no idea what you were going to get team, but the talent was undoubtedly there. Couple of grinders still at it again. I do mention this every couple of days just because Shotzzy always talks about it, that there's only a certain number of players that are actually committed, even around this time of the year when it's so important to really be putting in the time. Drazah's playing Pro Search and Destroy 8. Illy's playing High Roller Search and Destroy Pro 8. Like, this is what these guys tend to do. But just before we get into this Dashy FormaL thing, wanted to share this clip here, which I missed the other day, but it was from Priestahh, just talking about the current state of affairs on the Gentle Mates roster. They've not started the year as planned. They have not won a series yet, haven't they? I think they're 0-4 to start the year, so it's not pretty, but they have got, to be fair to Los Angeles Gorilla's mate, one of the best supporting cast in the entire league. All of the most viewed games in the CDL so far. This, of course, is somewhat biased just because Gataga streams the Gentlemates games and not the other ones to like 60,000 viewers plus every single time, but all of the top 4 games in terms of viewership are the Gentlemates games. Now, they have Lynz, a French player. That's probably the guy they're most supporting. But to be fair, Skyz, Kismet, Priestahh have all got, you know, lots of love, but also equally lots of, I wouldn't say hate precisely, because I actually think looking at the replies, lots of the Gentle Mates fans are very, like, cordial in their discussion. They will usually reply to the guys and say, oh, well, you know, you played better today, better like next time type thing, which is kind of nice to see. That may not last forever, as it tends to be, right? Like, if you keep struggling and the organization keeps not winning, then you know, obviously the fans will start to turn on certain players. But yeah, I thought it was just kind of nice to see what Priestahh had to say about the Gentlemates fans, and says that, you know, since starting competing, he's never really felt anything like this, which is kind of remarkable to think about, given that Priesthah's played for a number of pretty big organizations, notably FaZe, obviously, right? I mean, he was on 100 Thieves he played for during the Black Ops 4 season. Then the year after that, he was on Atlanta FaZe when obviously the CDL came around, and he's been around the block a couple of times since then. But he says that, you know, from his time competing, he's never really felt anything like this in terms of such strong support from the fans. Whether, you know, they could actually execute on that, of course, is another question. Because while the fan support might be excellent, the performances have not been, right? I mean, they're 0-4 so far as a franchise. They've won a map in each series they've played, so congrats, I guess. But yeah, they lost to OpTic, they lost to Thieves, which is fair enough. I mean, losing to OpTic, Thieves, and then even to the Ravens, a team that's also top of the league. But yeah, it was that first result against Rocker which wasn't ideal, that game 5. But since then, they have, to be fair to them, played better. I just think individually, Priestahh has struggled somewhat, actually quite substantially. So yeah, we'll see if that goes anywhere going forwards. But let's talk about this whole Dashy FormaL thing. I know there was a clip as well towards the end of the OpTic Inner Circle they did, where they were talking about players that they are most similar to the OpTic dynasty compared to the modern day. For FormaL, that's pretty easy, right? I mean, Dashy is, at least he should be in many respects, the new FormaL for OpTic Texas. FormaL was the most dominant AR that we've ever seen in competitive Call of Duty, and continues to be an absolute force in the Halo world, especially with the new roster they are potentially going to be forming. And it's been a big talking point, I would say, for the last, you know, 3 years, as to whether Dashy can ever, you know, get to FormaL's level. Not from like a pure gunny perspective, because, you know, Dashy and FormaL's pure gunny and ability to shoot straight are not too dissimilar. People could maybe argue either way, but, you know, there's no doubt that, you know, arguably from an AR perspective, 1A, 1B in COD history, from a pure gun skill perspective, and Dashy is arguably the best, certainly in the CDL era. They played together in Cold War, notably. It didn't really go to plan. FormaL at that point was kind of checked out from COD. It was online cheese anyway. FormaL wasn't really about it. And look, they didn't probably play great together as an AR duo. But we know that FormaL has taught Dashy a lot. when they were teammates, and even since then as well in the more recent times when FormaL has kind of tried to take Dashy under his wing to some degree as kind of like a protege or like a, you know, a Padawan to use like a Star Wars analogy again, like on the thumbnail. But yeah, I guess that's the point for FormaL, that he wants Dashy to be able to achieve what he has achieved. And, you know, obviously winning 30 odd events or whatever is pretty unlikely, especially in the modern CDL. But it was a big discussion of the last couple of years, would Dashy ever be able to replicate that kind of success that FormaL has? Because FormaL, especially towards the end of his career, such a well-rounded player. Not just the ability, but also the clutch factor. Like, this guy always delivers in the pressure moments. FormaL, of course, his comms are also spectacular, the human UAV or whatever, and Dashy has still pieces of that puzzle, but even winning the World Championship this year, which cemented Dashy in many respects, he didn't have a great Champs Grand Finals, Dashy. I feel like there's many people that believe, myself included, that after getting that kind of monkey off his back, Dashy, he'll arguably be even better this season after the ring buff. But FormaL was always tended to be a player who always thrived in those pressure moments, so I think there's still a fair bit for Dashy to learn from FormaL, and FormaL's also still competing elsewhere, which I think is good for all parties as well. But this was just a pretty funny clip where FormaL was like, hey, Brandon, you better stop baiting me, and kind of implying you've still got a fair bit to learn. But it's good to see the guys getting along well.
But I will say, man, all the Gentlemates fans out there, bro, you guys have been insane. I've never had support after, you know, losing matches and looking at Twitter and just saying like, yo, keep going, keep your head high, like, we're gonna support you guys no matter what. Like, seeing that's an unreal feeling. That's a feeling I've never really had since I've started competing, to be honest. As soon as I lose, people are like, he needs to drop, he needs to break up, like that. I'm sure there's people saying that, but the amount of support of people that actually believe in this team and are keeping faith in us, I really do appreciate it, man. Like, seriously, like, the whole team really appreciates that shit, so much love.
Oh my god, that almost hit.
Stage one hit.
Two in blue.
Like, dude, the way
I'm actually, I swear to God, man, I swear to God, like,
bro.
I'm not deliberately baiting you, but you get baited the most by me, like. What's Jen? It's weak, it's weak.
Oh my god.
I'm actually like, honestly, I'm not even gonna shoot my gun. I'm just gonna like just sprint with my knife out just to get it. Like, look, you're literally in front of me right now. You're literally.
It's like, I always spawn right in front of you, dude. It's actually so annoying. One shot P3.
I'll get him. But you got time. Oh, did he go time? Dead? Is that him, right?
Watch out.
Oh, wait, like, are you behind me? I'm actually fucking self-conscious now. Like, now I'm tweaking. I'm just gonna get time. If I bait you in time, it's whatever.
So very much intrigued your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. What's the upcoming year going to look like for Dashy? Because so far this guy has been frying. His numbers in the CDL are superb. It seems like he's playing in a slightly different way to last year as well. Last year Dashy was more of the hill kitten, really. Just soaking up the time, letting the other guys run around. But every game plays slightly differently in terms of what you want your main AR to do. Dashy seems on this game to be more of a Slayer AR again. And maybe Kenny will be the one to fill in the gaps in possibly a similar way to what's going to happen on the Thieves, when Scrappy is going to play at immense pace, is going to put down immense damage and numbers, and Ghosty will also do the same to some degree when necessary, but largely will just fill the gaps, do the comms, do what's necessary. Maybe the Dashy-Kenny dynamic is going to be similar this year, when Kenny does the Ghosty role and Dashy does the Scrappy role. That maybe is how Black Ops 6 should be played, and it's certainly helping Dashy's numbers so far. But obviously with the drama at OpTic over the last couple of weeks with the Pred Huke situation, it makes it more challenging for Dashy to have another legacy season from a championship success perspective. Because, like, if Dashy wants to get to the level where FormaL was, has been, and will continue to be, he's got to put more championships on the board, and that's going to happen this season as well. But very much intrigued your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.